What do I do if I feel worthless? Who do I talk to if I feel that someone is harming themselves or may harm themselves? What do I do if I want to give up on life? These were all questions that were raised by the young ladies who attended the Fearfully and Wonderfully Made Youth Conference in August. The purpose of this conference will empower the young ladies to be all that God has called them to be. And during the Girl Talk panel, they had the opportunities to ask questions that they were currently struggling with. We noticed that a lot of the questions centered around the topic of mental health. Based on the U.S. News and World Report, suicide is the second leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 10 and 34. So as we know, mental health not only affects us as adults, but it also affects our youth. Hi, my name is Erin Loudon. I was the host of the first Fearfully and Wonderfully Made Youth Conference, and here with me today are my friends and the speakers from the conference, Kelly Feely and Tyanisha Williams. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us today, and I would love for you to introduce yourselves to everyone watching.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, girls. Kelly Feely. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor. Been practicing for 10 years. Born and raised in Baltimore until second grade, and then moved back later on to work in a hospital laboratory. And now I'm full-time practice helping people with their mental health.
Excellent. Thanks, Kelly.
Hey, ladies. I am Tyanisha Williams. Friends and family call me Ty. I am a mom. I have 2 little girls. I'm a wife, been married for 12 years, born and raised in upstate New York, Rochester, New York area, and been living in Baltimore for 12 years. Started off as a middle school and high school teacher, teaching health, and then just felt a call to kind of transition to counseling. So I am a licensed graduate professional counselor, and I've been doing in the field for 5 years. So I primarily work with young adults and children.
Excellent. Thanks, Ty. So what we're going to do today is basically have our Girl Talk panel that we're bringing to y'all, but we're primarily be talking about mental health. So we're going to be using all the questions that we weren't able to get to during the conference, but we told you guys that we were going to answer them. So here we are answering your questions. So first, Ty, I'm going to start with you. Why is mental health so important?
I think the important part before I even talk about why it's important is to talk about exactly what is mental health. And let's just start off there, and then Kelly, feel free to tail in there for me.
Sure.
But when we're talking about mental health, what is mental health? That has to do with your emotional state. That has to do with your psychological and your social well-being. What does that affect? That affects how you think, how you feel, how you act. And it also determines how you make decisions, how you make choices, how you interact with others, how you see yourself. So it really impacts a lot of your components of health. When we think about wellness, if you think of like a circle, and you kind of divide it into maybe 7 to 8 equal parts, meaning those 7 or 8 parts can be your spiritual, your physical, your emotional, your environmental, your social. If we think about all of those parts that add up to your wellness, and when we think about wellness, that wellness is making sure all of those parts are balanced.
Yeah.
If you think about, and we all can relate to this, when your mental is not in balance, it impacts every aspect of your life, or it can impact every aspect of your life. So that's, to me, that's why it's important, is because it is an important component that impacts every aspect of our
Good.
lives.
That's really good.
Yeah, to kind of go off what Ty was saying, your brain is part of the main component that controls your mental health. It's an organ, just like your liver and your kidney. But you have different parts of your brain that control different parts of you. And so you have your cognitive, which we're going to call the upper brain, and then we have the lower brain, which is your emotional part of your brain. And so a lot of times when we're feeling not well, we're flooded in our emotional brain, and we're not thinking with our cognitive. And so that's where we can make really bad decisions, or we have really bad reactions because of how we're feeling. And so a lot of what I hope to address today with all of you is how to get into the cognitive part to help you kind of ground yourself and remind yourself that you're not what you feel.
Yeah, that's good. So going on to our next question, it kind of ties in that with our feelings. So what are some practical steps that we can take when we're feeling worthless, feeling sad, or feeling depressed?
So again, kind of going off what I was saying earlier, just to be still and kind of remember that you're flooded in your emotions and that feelings are real. Feelings are valid, but they're not true, because you are worth something. You're not worthless. And so when you're in that place, to just kind of be still, and practice some mindfulness. That might be something that could be helpful. I have a tool here that I use. It's called I Am Here Now. It's a workbook. It's real fun. It's real playful, and it can kind of get you out of that mind state, and it helps activate your cognitive thoughts so that you're not staying stuck in those feelings. And so that's one of the things that you could do. Ty, I think you probably have some more.
So just some simple practical things that you can do. I think Kelly was talking about making sure that we're getting from our lower level up to our cognitive level. Good simple thing that you can do to help you with that is just make a list of positive qualities or attributes that you like about yourself. And just have them readily available. If that's in a journal, if that's in a note in your notebook when you're taking it to school, that actually might be a good idea. Write in your notebook when you're at school. Or I've personally had to write it on a Post-it and then just put it in my pocket. So if I know I'm starting the day off a little rough, just put it in my pocket and then just take it out and just be present and then just read it. Another thing that I encourage my clients to do, and I do nightly, is just kind of recap your day and think about what are 3 things that you're thankful for. And then I also have a category called proud moments. So I think about, okay, I'm thankful for these 3 things, but what are some things that I did do positive out of the day? And that's going to look different for each person. That's going to look different for each day. So those are just some practical things. Make a playlist. Make a playlist of music that make you feel that encourage you or make you feel happy.
Exactly. That's good.
I do it all the time.
Oh, I remember if you were at the conference, remember the little rocks he gave you. You could use that as like a positive, like, I have to remember that I'm not these feelings and this is something good. So you can even write on your rock something positive about yourself to remind you.
Or your puzzle pieces. Remember that activity? Yeah, so you can do that also. Good.
No, I think those are great points. And something that I also mentioned at the conference is doing daily affirmations. Like literally, I have alarms set at like 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. And what Ty was saying is that when you're making those lists, I literally have lists and I recite it like, I am fearfully, wonderfully made. I am beautiful. I am smart. I am intelligent. Because a lot of things, I think y'all would touch on this, is a lot of things that, all the negative things that we say to ourselves, we start to believe those things.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to combat those negative thoughts with positive thoughts.
Absolutely.
And once you start saying it to yourself, you'll be surprised when you actually start to believe it.
Absolutely.
But I think you guys made both great points.
Yes.
So as I mentioned earlier, that suicide, unfortunately, is the second leading cause of death for individuals between 10 and 34. So we know that if we're talking about 10-year-olds, that is probably a lot of the ages of you who are watching this. So my next question is, what should these young ladies do or young men do if they feel like they want to give up on life? And how do they encourage themselves not to?
Yeah, so I think again we will go back to, are you able to stop and be present and choose some of these positive thoughts?
Right.
Our brain is created with a negative bias for survival instincts, and that's part of the lower brain. It's part of that primal brain of emotions, because that's kind of the survival.
Right.
It's how we fight, the fight and flight part of us. And so there is a negative bias already in our brain. So we have to add in the positive bias. We have to choose the thoughts. And so just starting there, but reaching out to a friend, reaching out to a trusted adult to talk about how you feel, but not to give up on yourself, but to believe in yourself. And start there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was going to say this just to piggyback off what you were saying. It's so important during that time, if you're feeling down and out, like you, and you just said this, about reaching out to somebody that you trust or somebody that you feel safe with. I think that's important also. I can't, just being transparent, I can't tell you how many times I have to reach out to these 2 ladies when I was having an off day and just saying, listen, can you pray for me or with this situation? Or this is happening. But when I'm doing that, I'm making myself vulnerable enough to open up to them so they know what's going on. A lot of times when we're going through things, we assume people know what we have going on. And sometimes if we don't really reach out to them, they have no clue. They don't know how to pray. You know, they really don't know.
We can't read each other's minds.
Exactly.
So we have to share our own self.
Exactly.
That's good.
And sometimes, let's just be honest, sometimes when you're asking for help or you're reaching out, that's the bravest thing that you can do for yourself sometimes. Is just reaching out and saying, listen, can y'all pray for me? Can y'all just be present for me? Or I'm not really in the mood to be talking, but can you just keep me in your thoughts and keep me in your prayers? It's sometimes just a thing and that's part of being just self-care.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like Ty's saying, it's the community. We talked about this at the conference, how important community is, that you don't have to go through it alone.
Right.
But you do have to reach out because people don't know how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's because it's inside of you. So just being able to share, and like she said, like just reach out and say what you need. What do you need? Sometimes we don't know, but you can say, I don't know what I need, I need something.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's
call
good.
me, text me, something.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's good. No, I think too, and just to add to it, and we talked about it a lot at the conference when I spoke, is that we talked about in Psalm 139 is that it says, I created your inmost being. I knit you together in your mother's womb. So knowing that if you are still here, if you are still alive and breathing, that you're not a mistake, that you are here for a reason, and that God has great plans for you. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, give you a hope and a future. And just knowing that God has you here for a reason, and that you are not a mistake, and that everything that you're going through, that know that God loves you and that he sees you, and there are people here, we're here, and we love you, and we want you to keep going. We don't want you to give up, and God has such good plans for you. So I just wanted to add that too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And can I say this too, Erin? And I love what you just said too. That's important too, because at the end of the day, when you don't have the community and when you don't have the friends, at the end of the day, I can't tell you how many times when knowing that God was there to comfort me, that got me through.
Amen.
So that got me through. So we say community, but if that supplement to having a relationship with, you know what I mean?
You need your vertical community before you have your horizontal.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So kind of going off of that, so say if you were to the friend of someone that they're known that they may potentially harm yourself, as that friend or as that family member, what can you do or how can we help that person?
Well, to start, probably one of the best things to do is, if you don't know what to do, is to talk to a trusted adult, a teacher, a counselor, a parent, their parent or your own parent, someone that you know you can trust with this information. If it's someone close to you and you feel safe to talk to them about it, then ask them, what do they need? How can you come alongside them in it? That tell them that you're there for them. You're not there to fix it for them because you can't, but you can walk alongside them again in the community along their journey. And just letting them know, sometimes people just need to know that someone cares about them.
Yeah.
And then that alone can do a lot. So again, remember, you're not fixing them, but you're letting them know that you're there for them. And so that would be first place to start. Is ask them, but then also talk to a trusted adult.
Right. And I think you summed it up perfectly. Really not too much to add. And I would say, as you can see from Kelly's response, it's not like it's not a cookie cutter answer, if that makes sense.
It's not.
So please understand that's going to depend on who you're dealing with. That's going to depend on what they're going through. That's going to depend on so many different factors. So she just gave you kind of a general idea on what you can do, but that might look different for each person. But I think you did a wonderful job just doing that. But
there's no one response that's right for this. So you have to kind of figure it out with that person.
Yeah. And I think that's excellent, Kelly. I love one of the words you said is that letting people know that you care for them. So I feel like that's the biggest thing. And sometimes you may say, oh, I've been checking on them, but they're not responsive. Keep checking on them. Just keep checking on them, because sometimes when people are ready to talk, they will reach back. But just knowing that somebody cares. There's been so many times where I've had a bad day and one of these ladies will just text me and be like, how's you doing? I was like, at least somebody cares. And that's what we all do. We all want to be careful. We all want to feel loved. So just keep checking on that person. Keep letting you know you love them. Keep letting you know you care. Even if just sending a quick text and saying, I love you, or thinking about you, or how's your day? I'm praying for you. At least they know, like Kelly said, we can't fix people. We can't, we can walk alongside them, but just having somebody to do life with may just be all somebody needs. So I think that's great. I think that's excellent. And then,
can I add one more thing? Just to say, and as a single woman, a lot of you girls are young and single, and you should be. But as a single woman, I'm divorced, and so I'm doing life alone. I don't have a mate or children, and so I need my girls. I need community, and I need friends to walk life with. And that's part of it. I mean, that's okay. That's good. Like, it's not a bad thing. But I also have to do my part in reaching out and getting what I need, because there's not someone automatically there for me.
That's good.
Good point.
And yeah, so that's important for
Very good point.
us as young women to know.
I think that's perfect. So we had talked a lot about, you had mentioned earlier that you kind of have to, if you're going through things, you kind of have to reach out to people, because people can't read your mind, as Kelly said. So what are how would you guys say, especially if we're talking to some of our young ladies, what are the best ways for them to kind of reach out to their parents and to let them know that maybe they're dealing with some things? How are they able to reach out to their parents, and what are some steps they can take to do that? I think I caught them off guard a little bit, guys.
Yeah. No, I think for me, and I'll be completely transparent with you guys, that's something that I've kind of struggled with throughout my whole life, and it's still a work in progress for me even as an adult. So I think one of the things that has been very helpful for me, I'm the type of person that I am. I'm not one to make a hasty or quick decision. I just need time to process things. But that might be different for you. Everybody's different. We're all created differently. For me, I just need time to process. So what I usually do is I write down exactly what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what would I like to say to that particular person or parent, mom or dad or whatever, whoever your guardian or care person is at that time. But I just usually write it down. And then I decide for me, what am I trying to get out of it? And I think you'll talk a little bit about this here. But for me, does that conversation need to be face to face? Does that conversation need to be, is that something I can do over the phone? Can it be through text, or can it be something that I can just send a letter or a note to? So for me, so I've done all three of those modalities. But then I think just intentionally following through. Once you decide whether you think that needs to be face to face, then just following through on that and just contacting the person and just checking in to see if that's a good time for them to be present and be able to listen, because my timing may not be the right time for them to be present, if that makes sense. So just being intentional about maybe the timing, and then just following through on that. So that kind of looks different for each person. So that, once again, that's not a quick cookie cutter thing. It's just based on how you feel, what's comfortable for you, and then what is your intent that you're trying to get out of the conversation.
Yeah, so I would say, I love what Ty is saying, identify what you're feeling first. So y'all, I know I showed you this wheel. We'll put this on as a resource, because sometimes we don't know exactly how we feel, but we're feeling something strongly. And so being able to put words to it first, identifying it, is really helpful in the processing of it, right? And so we're not just kind of spewing out words that don't really have meaning. We're actually identifying. And so then figuring out what exactly are you looking for from your parent. Right. So if you're feeling sad and upset, do you just need comfort from them? Are you looking to solve a problem? Like, what is it that you're actually looking for? So maybe even just being able to identify that, and then tell the parent, like, I just need comfort. I just need a hug because I'm feeling sad. So asking kind of for what you need while you're sharing your feeling. Because a lot of times parents with love, they want to just fix, right? They just want you to be better. But some things just aren't fixable. And so just being able to be heard can be one of the most valuable things that a parent can give to their child, is just them voicing and being held and comforted. And so really kind of distinguishing what it is that you need. And so for the parents too that are watching, really listen to what it is that your children need. They just might need to be heard and not be fixed, because there is no fixable thing sometimes. So.
Excellent.
Can I just add one thing on there? And this is just for the parents who, if you have a child come to you, whatever the case may be, and if you feel like you're not in a place where you can listen and provide comfort or provide support at the time that they need it, then just say, you know what, I honor that you want to hear or you need to say something. Can I do this at such and such a time, so that I can be more present with you? And then follow through with that, because that's another thing too. You just got to follow through with it, because if they've already taken the step to be vulnerable and say that they need whatever the case may be, and then you never follow through, then that kind of shuts the door for them to be able to come again and be able to be, they're not going to feel safe.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you can't be and that's fine. We've all been there when somebody's come to us and we said, you know what, this ain't the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But then be intentional about following through and just be as present as you can be. But I love what you said. It's not about all the time fixing, but it's about listening or defensive. Let's be honest. How people can come and we already are defensive too.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's that. We could go on for hours about that. We're trying to keep it short.
Take two, right?
Right. So the next time we'll give us some more stuff around it.
Exactly. No, that's good. One thing, another question, and y'all kind of touched on it, is that especially speaking from maybe the parents and also for the children, if they're dealing with maybe depression, anxiety, what resources are out there that may also be able to help them? I know in school that there's counselors, that guidance counselors, there's teachers. I know you guys both work as counselors, but what resources are there in the community that are also helpful for them?
Yeah, I mean, I do think parents educating yourself around emotions, like we didn't learn this anywhere. There's, when I was in school around emotions, right? And that's what I'd say when I have clients. I'm like, you're in emotional school. We didn't learn this anywhere.
Right.
And odds are, parents, you didn't learn this anywhere either. And so I would honestly tell you to do a little bit of research yourself around anxiety, depression. You know, what does it look like in teens? Like, there's tons of resources on the internet just to get an understanding for yourself and also understanding your own emotions.
Right.
Like, your kid might be coming to you with emotions that you have too, but you've never learned to share or express them. So just doing kind of some of your own work around it, I think, would be helpful. And reaching out to the school counselor, or there may be parenting classes at school that are offered, or just anything that is helpful to you to help you come alongside your child through the process. And we can, I don't know any offhand, but we can come up with some resources.
Definitely.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, we'll post it. We'll link it below.
Yeah. And I do know one resource, and like Erin said, she'll post it. I think one of the things, the statistic that you gave at the beginning about suicide, I think that's very important to talk about. But we will post a resource for that, and there is a hotline. So there are hotlines. There's a crisis hotline that you can actually text.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel like talking, there's a number that you can text, and then there is 24 hours. You can have somebody kind of reply and kind of communicate and talk to you there. So we'll definitely post.
Yeah, we'll
those,
definitely
those
post that
resources.
too. Definitely post those resources. Excellent. So, ladies, as we're wrapping up, if you could just say one or two things that you wanted to leave the ladies with regarding mental health, whether it's maybe some advice or anything else that you would add before we finish up. You guys can take a minute and think about it.
I think I really want you to understand your body and your brain, because when we don't have a proper understanding of ourselves, then it's hard to manage ourselves, right? And part of mental health is managing your emotions and not letting your emotions manage you.
That's good.
And so not to act out of the emotion. And so really to get an understanding of your brain and know that you have more of a say around your emotions than you think. And so I want to leave you with knowing that you're allowed to have your emotions. Again, they're real, they're valid.
Absolutely.
But they're not always true. And I want you to spend time thinking about, how do I go to my cognitive brain? How do I go to thinking about things that are helpful for me and not to things that are harmful for me?
Excellent. That's good.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off kind of what you were saying too, is how your feelings, they are valid. You know, I kind of grew up thinking, oh, I'm not going to say nothing, or I'm wrong to feel angry, or I'm wrong to feel frustrated, and all of these different feelings. But it wasn't until I kind of got older and kind of became more aware of my body and taking care of myself and figuring that out, that I understand. Going back to what you were saying, that I feel I am worth enough to kind of sit with my feelings and to feel them. Now, what I did hear you say was it's important to figure out how we are responding when it comes to those particular emotions or whatever we're feeling. But I think it's okay to feel that. And I love what you said, Kelly, about your feelings are valid and they are important at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest trick that we have. Don't say nothing, or you're wrong for doing this way. But just kind of sit in it sometimes. You know what? I have gone to counseling been on the other side as a client, and am in a position to be able to counsel. And one of the things that I've learned throughout being in counseling is they always say, sit with your emotions.
Yeah.
And it's then sometimes when you can sit in your emotions that you can figure out things about yourself.
Yeah.
Why do I do this? Why do I respond this way? What is my trigger? So you can kind of identify all of those things when you can kind of sit and be still and be present with yourself and not be so quick to kind of rash out and be, you know what I mean, in the emotion. So just this is it. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. I always tell my clients, that, and I tell myself that every day, right?
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself, and that looks different for each person, and it looks different each day.
Right, that's good. Because
That's
we're our own
Yeah,
biggest
that's
critic. We are our own biggest critic. So I think that's right. So yeah, ladies, yes, please be kind to yourself. And I would just add, and I said it before, but just remember God loves you.
Yes.
That God created you for a plan and a purpose, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that God has such good plans for you. And even on the days when you're not feeling it, His love doesn't change for you.
Right.
And we've all felt those days that we don't feel it, especially about ourselves. But one thing will never change is God's love for us. Well, ladies, we're so excited that we were able to do this for you, and we'll hope to bring you more videos surrounded around different topics. But you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next year.
All right, see you guys.
Love you.